welcome back to Calm Your Crazy. I'm Kiana Lambert. This week we are talking about my near-death experience and how it shaped my ability to heal and changed my life. Next week we're going to be talking about wounds and how they show up and shape our lives and how we can make those changes. I relate everything in science and also with quantum physics and spirituality. Let's get started. Okay. Today I'm sharing something, and I've never gone this deep before. If you're watching this, you're going to see me look off to the side because I've written it all out the way I want to say it. And if you're listening and you hear pauses, that's what I'm doing as well. So, this is the story of what happened when I left my body. And I saw what I saw afterwards and the lessons that I brought back with me. So I want to say, as a precursor to all this, that I had done everything right in my life. And I've said this before in the other podcasts, but I went to school. I didn't do any drugs. I was in 2 relationships my entire life. I stayed home with the kids. I went to college. I worked full time. And the worst thing I ever did was smoke cigarettes when I was young. So because I did everything according to the textbook that was supposed to be right, and still I was having so many issues in my life with drama and trauma, I was at the end of my rope. It was in 2021, and I told the universe that I wanted answers. I wanted answers to why everything would not work out. I thought I was doing everything right. I mean, I was sick, I was diabetic, I was on medications for depression, PTSD. I went into career fields like EMS that exacerbated that. I had a traumatic childhood, but I did everything I was supposed to do and things still weren't working out. I was a good person, I was nice to people, I volunteered, I did everything. And I wanted to know what was wrong. And I was coming up for a routine surgery. It was a day surgery, and I knew that I was going to go under general anesthesia. And my parents had always been really into the occult and the esoteric, so naturally I got some of their inclinations, so I had really researched and was really interested in the afterlife. I wanted to know, because I had no fear of death. I literally had none, and that is a common theme in children that have had particularly traumatic childhoods. They don't fear. But I wanted to know what was out there. And in every near-death experience video that I watched where they talked about it, every single person saw their deity. Their family, and they felt all this warmth of people who'd passed on and that they were close to and that they were loved, and they saw Jesus or God or Krishna or all that stuff, and that was their near-death experience. So that was aside from my whole experience as far as what I wanted. I didn't want a near-death experience. I wanted answers. I literally told myself, if I don't get the answers to what is wrong and how I can fix it, I was very specific, and I re-said it to myself over and over and over again. I was very specific. If I did not get the answers that I wanted, I didn't want to come back. That's what I said. If I didn't get the way to fix it and make it better, I didn't want to come back. So that's what I said, and that's what I told myself when I went into surgery. And you know what? It was so calming. I had surrendered, I released, and it was the most peaceful bliss that I have ever felt. I went into the day surgery. I wasn't worried about anything. The anesthesiologist came in and talked to me, and they wheeled me off. And then I woke up. After I woke up, everything fell apart in my life. Everything. that did not serve me went away. It was tumultuous. It was traumatic. It was dramatic. But I came back, and the experience completely changed my life. It completely reshaped the way that I saw everything, how I saw death, what it means to be human, and what the future is, and how the future works, as far as death and evolution goes anyway. Okay. The first thing I remember before waking up was a pulse. Like a beep, like an electronic beep that pulsed. And I felt an ejection from my body, but it wasn't like fast. It was just a pulse, like a movement, like I just shifted from one to another. But it was almost like a pop, like I could feel something squeeze, and then it released, and I popped out. So the reason that I mentioned being interested and knowing what everybody else had experienced in their near-death experience is relevant, because what I saw was nothing. Absolutely nothing but me and my awareness. There was no stars, there was no nebula, I didn't have any body, there was nobody greeting me. And you know why there was nobody greeting me? Because I didn't have any loved ones that I was attached to, that I loved, that had moved on. My grandmother died, but I wasn't attached to her. My other grandparents died, but I wasn't attached to them. I had a love for God growing up because we were forced to memorize the Bible, and it was my attachment when I was younger because I didn't have any parenting. And so God became my parent. God was love. But as I grew older and I started to study religion, and as I got my degrees, I started to have more respect for all the gods, for all the deities, because I realized that they were all the same. They were all created by man to have something to hold on to, something to believe in. In some cases, it was for population control. In other cases, it was for something to help with people's suffering. So I believed in all of them, but by proxy, I believed in none of them, because there wasn't just one. And what, are they gonna all show up? That would have been cool, but none of them did. It was just me and my awareness, and I felt connection, love, security, and peace. I wasn't scared. And the void had an awareness. And I realized that the awareness that I was sensing in the void was me. And that's how I knew that everything was me. It came to my awareness. And as soon as I realized that that awareness was me, stars began to appear. It was the Milky Way galaxy. I started to see it swirl like faster and faster and faster and get sucked into the black hole that was in the center. And everything got sucked in until it was completely black. And all of a sudden, there was an explosion. And the beauty of it was indescribable. It was like a flower, a firecracker that had exploded, and it was all these stars and lights were swirling and forming new galaxies and forming new universes, all in a different configuration. They weren't the same as what had been sucked in. It was another version of all of the elements coming together and creating more. Sorry, this is a lot. It's hard. This is the first time I've ever shared this. So as soon as I saw those getting created, I realized that it was all evolutionary, evolvement. And I started thinking of Earth, and suddenly it started rushing towards me, like the screen shifted. and it started rushing towards me. And I woke up. Now, this is just a quick little synopsis of what I saw, because I saw so much more. I saw dimensions and how we live in all of them, existing everywhere at the same time, and that everything is frequency and vibration, and we're all connected, and that we all come from the one source of light that splits into everything like that explosion. And we forget in order to have an experience in that evolutionary cycle. And we come here not knowing that each thing is us, each flower, each plant, each person, and the way that we interact with them is a reflection of our inner state so that we can experience ourselves. And that every person you experience and the way that they make you feel is a reflection of your inner state and your wounds and who you are. I saw that there were frequency tables and vibrational strings in between. So as you move through frequencies, you're moving through different layers of reality, even if it's right here. And you think you're going somewhere, but you're actually not. You're just changing your experience. And that when we die, there is no death. It's just part of the evolutionary process. And we go from one state of consciousness to another. I saw my lives that I had lived before, where my consciousness was, and it was like I was showing myself everything that I wanted to know. I said before I went in that I wanted to know how it worked, and I wanted to know how everything worked so I could change it. And this is exactly what was shown to me. I could also see my past, my parents' past. I understood that I was them, part of them, and I understood why everything unfolded just the way it did, and the way it did was perfect and in divine timing. The whole thing changed my life and changed my perspective on myself. And I want to point out that it's really funny. It's not funny, but I mean, for me, it's funny because I didn't have a deity show up. I had math and science show up, which was what I escaped into, my mind, my education. And so that's what showed up for me. And it really showed me that we are not our bodies. We are not our thoughts. We are not our mind. We are spirit. And when I came back, how other people say they went into spontaneous remission if they had disease or something like that, my life went into a spontaneous remission. And in order to do that, I had to get rid of everything that was holding me back. And I realized how toxic my friendships were and how I was supporting things that didn't align with who I was and who I had built myself to be and who I was inside. I had let standards slip for relationships that were toxic because I was attached to them, and they all fell away. Every single one of them. And it was not even a choice. All the physical things that we had went away. I lost my business. I wasn't able to function. I, like my friends, their lives blew up. I had to go through so much to purge. And once the purge was over, then I really started doing the deep inner healing work. And it was painful. It was painful to look at. It was painful to realize how much I'd been through as a child, being trafficked by my mother and my parents, and being in the cult, and being assaulted all the way up until 12 to 14. So I was able to see that I was here for a higher purpose, and that everything that happened to me was for a reason. And that because I was not my mind and body and I was here experiencing something, and everybody is connected and everyone is a version of me, I started to be able to move in a different way, in a different capacity. I started sinking into my body and feeling and mapping it, where the shame was when it showed up in a certain memory. Was it in my abdomen? Was it in my chest? Was it in the back of my head? I started doing cognitive behavioral therapy, somatic therapy. I went to regular therapy, and I took things from each one of those experiences and I started to rebuild myself and rewire my brain. Rewiring your brain is neuroplasticity. It's the brain's ability to continue to change and grow and heal. And it is incredibly difficult, but incredibly worth it. I've lost 60 pounds and it just drops off every day because I feel my body. I listen to the cues that it needs when it's hungry and it needs nutrition. I've completely changed the way I've eaten because I know now what my body needs and I don't even crave the things that it doesn't, that I used to, the salty foods, the sugary foods. And I stopped shaming myself for eating those things because the reason you are addicted to sugar, the reason you're addicted to salty foods is all a biological response and it's your body screaming for something that it needs. So after the weight and after the central nervous system regulation stuff and the therapy, the diabetes started to go away, the high cholesterol, and even the depression and the PTSD. And I was able to get off all those medications. I'd been on Effexor for over 10 years. It stopped working. It has a half-life of 10 years. A half-life meaning that's when it stops working. And they tried to put me on Wellbutrin and it wasn't working because the problem that they're trying to fix is a band-aid. It's a biology band-aid when the deep inner healing work is the root of the problem. And if you get to the root of the problem, you don't need the band-aid anymore. That doesn't mean that I go throughout life not being triggered every day. It doesn't mean that I stop feeling emotions. It doesn't mean that I don't have the hard days. What it means is that I have the tools and I have the awareness of my consciousness, my higher consciousness, to be able to move through those emotions, to be able to have a more fulfilling and robust life that fills me with happiness and joy. And when you heal the wounds and you heal the pain, you start to be able to see life in a completely different way. Not only that, but when you connect your spirit and your nervous system calms down, your ability to remember things from your childhood, from your past, recall, and even working with your mind interdimensionally with gamma waves, alpha waves, you can move and do so much with all of this once you really start healing that nervous system and connecting with your spirit. And I feel like it's my mission to help people through this because, and this is the biggest thing for me, I see people that are like me, right? But instead of going to college, instead of having the second part of their life be what mine was, they went into more drugs, more violence, and more crime. And it is literally because of how they were born, how their brains were shaped, and what they chose to do to make themselves feel better. Everyone's just trying to feel better. And in working with low income people and nonprofit organizations, the stigma that they have to put up with, the shame that they put on themselves for the things that they've been through is unacceptable. They walk around so small and feeling so bad about themselves that they continue to make choices that perpetuate those same feelings. And in those choices, it contributes to society in the form of violence and crime. And if I can see this, and if I can tell people, you are not your body, you are not your mind, you are your spirit, body, and mind together. And the things that happen to you were not your fault. And the choices that you made were not your fault. They were your brain. It was the way it was developed. It was what happened to you. And if people can grow and if they can listen to me, if they can hear me, because I was born in this vibration on purpose, I was born in this frequency on purpose so that people could see me recover from what happened to me, so they can recover from what happened to them, so that they can start moving their nervous system in a way that lets them feel again, that helps them feel life again, that helps them feel passion. And for the younger ones that are just now moving out into the world, so that they can have the courage to follow their dreams and not associate themselves with their past and who hurt them. And if I can only touch one person, that's all it needs to be touched. That's all it needs to be changed. Because when you change yourself, you change the world around you. You literally move into a different frequency. It is the most beautiful thing to feel. Whenever you have not had happiness and joy and safety, and suddenly you have it and it comes from within, nobody can take that from you. You could be in the middle of a hurricane, tornado, and you can still be fine because you know you are not your body, you are not your mind, and you are sitting here observing an experience and having it. And once it's over, you get to move on to another one and another one and another one. It's all your imagination. Thank you for joining me. Next week, we're going more into wounds and how those show up in your life and how those show up and how they make you move. Thank you for being here. Bye bye.